This video is sponsored by Incogni. So there I was the other day just browsing the Kerbal Space Program subreddit when suddenly
On a lonely planet slowly spinning its way to damnation, amid the incompetence and unpreparedness of lesser space programs, one team stands resilient against the herds, putting their lives on the line to aid those who were previously unaware of the quick save option. Yes, it's the incredible adventures of Jebediah and his crack team of Kerbinauts. They are the Blunderbirds, saving the Kerbin race one stranded explorer at a time.
sometimes, guys, I have to install mods so that I can load the save files of other players, but this time I needed to download over 50 gigabytes to load Captain Whitmire's save, and even on my PC that has these specs, the game chugged horribly. Here's that intro cutscene played at real-time speed, and, you know, the spaceplane hangar was so laggy, and I got a couple of crashes to desktop when attempting to build the rescue craft, and so I decided that I would abandon this save file for now, and assemble the rescue ship in an install with far fewer mods so that I can actually, you know, get a decent frame rate when it came to testing the vehicle, and of course no crashes to desktop, and then get this, an 18-minute wait for the game to then load back up because of all the mods that Captain Whitmire had. But it turned out that this was the beginning of the end. I'll outline exactly why this was in due course, but I'll quickly cover the build itself right now. I thought it'd be fun to do this mission by single-staged orbit, since I haven't built an SSTO in a hot minute, and I thought it'd be a nice challenge to use the Mark I form factor here. One of the significant hurdles we're going to face on this mission is getting the Kerbal trapped in the Lowne cupola module out on EVA, as there are no hatches on his capsule. So this plane is going to be equipped with a cargo bay with an inflatable docking port stashed within, and we will carry an engineer Kerbal to the crash site where they can go on EVA and weld the inflatable docking port to the entranceless cupola so that the Kerbal has the means to disembark. But anyway, it looks like construction is basically done, so now we're going to load it into the modded save file. I decided to quickly add a radial parachute to the back, and as you can see, the game crashed desktop. So I reloaded it again, and I was able to launch the craft, and I was able to add the little parachutes to the back of the craft as well to help slow us down on landing. But we're going to crossfade now to kind of later on in the flight. As you can see, the Rapier engines have these horrible temperature gauges, and look! Engine disabled, catastrophic overheating imminent. Yes, it wasn't just parts mods that this player had installed, it was also completely game-changing ones. The nuclear engine behaved very differently, the Rapier engines just kept on overheating and blowing up. I found these like radiator parts that were among the massive list of modded pieces. I thought maybe this will help me salvage the mission, I'm not sure. So try it again. As you can see, they did absolutely nothing. They did nothing at all. The Rapiers didn't work. I was able to reactivate them in closed cycle mode, but we're too low in the atmosphere, our speed is too low, we just couldn't make it to orbit. And later on, as you can see, the game then crashed, and we had to reboot to desktop, and it took me another half an hour to get back into the game. Now, normally I would press on and see if I could get things truly working, but the problem is that this week in particular, I'm not in. I'm traveling for many days and many nights. And so this week I only had a very small number of days, like I had one day, to basically make the video. And so I just didn't have enough time. So I was left with a dilemma. Either no video at all this week and all that effort into making the craft here go to waste, or I just tell you what happened and tell you the truth and then stage an identical crash site but with a KSP install where the engines and parts behave like they do in stock, and I went with the latter choice. So here I am staging the same scene in an install without the 10 million mods that Captain Whitmire has installed. Plus, I think this way the video is more relatable anyway to those who don't play with excessive mods or console players, because there's no longer any change to how the engines function and all that. But yes, I guess I've learned to maybe be a bit more wary when players have loads and loads of game-changing mods installed, when I need to kind of get the video done in a timely manner. I mean, I didn't make a video last week. I can't deprive you guys of content for 2 weeks in a row, especially because many of you are supporting me financially through Patreon and my YouTube membership program. So it means that it's very important to me that I don't miss more than like a week in a row. But anyway, the SSTO is ready, but before we can launch, I need to stop by the astronaut complex to recruit a few more Kerbonauts. Look at that, we get a whole list of their names and personal details. Kind of unsettling when you remember that, in real life, there are databases just like this one containing your information, being passed around between data brokers and who knows what other malicious actors. That's exactly why Incogni, today's sponsor, is such an essential service these days. They work to make sure that this doesn't happen to you. Normally, you'd have to contact each individual data broker yourself to request removal of your information, and with how many of them exist, that's just not humanly possible. But with Incogni, the entire process is automated. They reach out to over 230 data brokers on your behalf, repeatedly demanding your data be removed so it doesn't end up in the hands of advertisers, corporations, or cybercriminals. And with Incogni's new custom removals tool, you can expand that reach even further by adding more sites to send takedown requests to, giving you even more protection. Identity theft, online harassment, and financial fraud all start with stolen data. And this is more relevant now than ever, with identity theft rising by 72% in 2023 compared to the year before. That's why I use Incogni, and why you should too. Click the link in the description and use my code MATTLOWNE for 60% off their annual plan so you can take control of your data before somebody else does. Okay, so we have set off, gathering speed on the runway before pitching up and heading airborne. Now, we've only got 2 Rapier engines powering this vehicle, and until we hit around 440 meters per second, they don't provide that much thrust, and the craft is relatively heavy. So to begin with, we're going to spend quite a bit of time flying reasonably flat and close to sea level to allow the craft to steadily build up speed until we cross the threshold for the Rapiers to unleash their full thrust potential, at which point we'll start climbing. I made this little fancy red graphic on screen to highlight what phase of the flight we're currently in, as I do appreciate it is sometimes hard to spot when things like the nuclear engine are ignited, for example, and when the Rapiers switch from air breathing to closed cycle mode. And I mentioned earlier that I do sometimes feel a bit guilty whenever I miss a week with a Kerbal Space Program video, because I have some amazing supporters on Patreon and through the YouTube members program, and you know, they're paying for these videos, they're supporting me financially. I do feel bad skipping weeks on whenever it happens. But if you are one of those amazing people, then you should have access to an ad-free version of this video that comes complete with this very craft file available to download from the description if you want to try it out for yourself. And if you didn't get the notification for the video on Patreon or YouTube, then there are direct links to your version of the video in the description, and hey, anyone who wants to sign up can find links below too as well. Anywho, I do like how this spaceplane turned out a lot, actually. I think Mark 1 spaceplanes can be a fun challenge due to the limited number of parts available, but I do definitely want to check out Airplane Plus at some stage, as I'm very aware that that's a mod that adds a few more Mark 1 scale aircraft and spaceplane pieces. Notably, I think, someone correct me if this isn't correct, but I think it adds some like service bays that are similar to the Mark 2 service bays. Well, not service bays, cargo bays I should say, because obviously we do have Mark 1 size service bays. There is one on this very spacecraft in fact, but we don't have cargo bays. So the service bays, they open from both sides, or up and down or side to side, whereas a cargo bay only has one hatch, if that makes sense. So much better for spaceplane designs, in my opinion. Like, imagine if the space shuttle, for example, we've got the hatch that opens along the top, but imagine if it also opened along the bottom as well. Nah, that would be a bit weird. And that's kind of the current thing we have with the service bays, the Mark 1 service bays I should say, and also the service bays, they're very short and stumpy. I've always liked the idea of having the service bays be somewhat procedural, so that when you stack them, they then become one. Right? So when you stack service bays, they continually merge into one larger and larger service bay, and you just continue as you please. There we are, by the way. We have now completed our ascent, and there we are. We have now crossed the border into the vacuum of space. So we can deploy our solar panels, and we can deploy our little communications antenna. I see on this particular save, this is my normal Lowne Aerospace 3 save file. I have a specific save. Why was that so difficult to say? I have a specific save file in which I drop all my Blunderbird saves into, and I just run off that. So I don't know what the difficulty settings I have. Whatever the last player I rescued from, that's the settings that they were using. So yeah, we got no KerbNet to worry about, but it's still nice to pretend. I guess I just never. I'm just noticing this now. Basically, I never really noticed at the time that KerbNet was disabled, but it wouldn't have mattered if it was enabled because we have a communications dish on board this space plane. That was very roundabout. Bit of a ramble, I'm sorry about that, but yes, now we have plotted well, it's quite like we're running out of time. My last 2 Kerbal Space Program videos were really long. They were both over an hour long, I think, or one was definitely over an hour, one might have been like 59 minutes or something, but either way, very long videos. So it was always a bit of a panic talking because I'm like, oh, I've got to drag on these points for so long, and I had pre-written things from the KSP wiki to talk about because I was going to different planets and moons that I've never been to for the first time. But now it's like we're almost halfway through the video, like just doing like one big burn, and we're now going to reach our destination. Well, we do have to do a mid-course correction burn, but like the last video I did was the Erlem 4. So it's going to the ice giant Erlem in the outer planets pack and visiting all 4 of its moons. There were lots of transfer burns and stuff. And I was kind of disappointed actually. That and the Nidon video I did, which was again visiting the whole of the Nidon system, they both kind of bombed horribly, those videos. I was a bit disappointed about that. Especially because my Sarnus videos, like my Sarnus 5 challenge, that did really well. So I'm not quite sure why those videos didn't seem to sort of resonate with the algorithm, or maybe it just wasn't of interest. Are you one of those people that saw those videos and wasn't interested? I am very much looking for feedback here because I don't really know what my audience want or what the algorithm wants. Sometimes, like, I have this big list I made of just video ideas, and some I make and I'm like, yeah, that's going to be really good, let's do that. And then the video comes out and it's like one of the worst performing ones of all time. But yeah, my Erlem by Nidon one and then my Erlem video, they were both 10 out of 10 on YouTube Studio. That sounds good. It's bad though. So basically YouTube Studio, it will show you, like when you upload a video, it will tell you how well it's doing compared to the last 10 videos. So it's 1 out of 10. It's your most popular video of the past 10. If it's 10 out of 10, it's the least popular of the last 10. And both of those were 10 out of 10s, which is a bit of a shame because obviously they were very long videos. They represented a lot of effort. So I was a little bit sad that they didn't do too well. So if you're one of those people that saw it and had zero interest, let me know why and what you would rather see instead, because I'm always looking for ways, because I've been doing this for over 10 years now, so sometimes when you're looking at something so close up, it's hard to kind of step back and see the forest for the trees. So I've already said, people have already said they want the modded playthrough with the community tech tree. I feel like I might have to, and now I've had this experience with Captain Whitmer's save file where actually the game could potentially be totally different. I might need to just do a little like unrecorded playthrough myself, at least for like the first quarter of the tech tree, just so I can figure out how the engines differ, or maybe the community tech tree mod and the associated mods with it don't do that much change. So yeah, if you want to educate me in the comments as well, that's always great. Now, as you can see, we touched down on the surface of Minmus and have that little mono-propellant engine stacked away just ahead of the cockpit in that service bay, just to kind of, we didn't need it because Minmus's surface gravity is so low, but I feel like it just makes it a bit more realistic that in real life, if this were going to happen, the plane wouldn't just be allowed to slam down on its front landing gear on the surface of Minmus. Instead, we would want some sort of thruster to, modulate the pitch down. We probably also wouldn't run over the stranded spacecraft that I've just done there. I was about to say, it's just like we're sliding about as if we're on ice, but looking at the reflections there, maybe we are on ice. Maybe not water ice, but ice nonetheless. Well, ice cream, right? That's what Minmus is. It's mint ice cream. What am I talking about? So let's do the first phase of this mission, which is getting Bill Kerman out on EVA. I brought Bill Kerman with us because Bill Kerman is our resident veteran engineer, and he's going to go ahead and weld that inflatable docking port to the stranded cupola. So we've got a little like gun thing out. I don't really know what it is. It's like a welding tool, but it's like wireless. It's like ranged. Normally it fires a little laser, but no, didn't. It just attached. So now we can open up our airlock like that, and then we can cut to, there we are, Bob Kerman. Yeah, I just loaded like any old Kerbals into the stranded vessel there. So we've got Bob Kerman there. He's now in the inflatable docking port, which means he can now go on EVA, which, he couldn't do before. So they are a bit of a wobble from the things there. It's kind of a bit of a sort of like a Jenga thing here, getting the Kerbals on board, because we only have one hatch, so we're gonna have to walk him down the little aisle to get him onto a little seat, and then yeah, it's just gonna be a case of EVAing the other Kerbals across. Now, yeah, one of the things that, like, one of the reasons I picked this save file, and you might have noticed in the little Reddit post screenshot at the beginning, is that Captain Whitmire's, like, Reddit description said there were tourist Kerbals on board, which I thought would be a really cool challenge, because tourist Kerbals cannot go on EVA. They can only transfer between different compartments. So we would have needed to get, like, some sort of rover, or have the spacecraft itself be able to dock to the stranded craft, and then the Kerbals would need to transfer across that way. We could have cheated and used the claw, but that's kind of cheaty. I wanted to do that. I would have wanted to do things properly using docking ports and rovers and make it like realistic. But when I loaded Captain where I save, there were no tourists. So either maybe if there were tourists, maybe the pod just exploded when I loaded it. I'm not sure. But there were no tourists on board. So if anyone just noticed that and is wondering, like, oh, Matt, you've just made it easy for yourself by not putting tourists here. There were no tourists at Captain Whitmire save that I had. So just addressing that. I guess I could have added some here. But at this point, I designed this craft knowing that there were indeed no tourists that I needed to rescue. So, and I kind of just wanted to use this craft because I made it, and it's a cool looking little space plane. Once again, slapping. I don't know what this space plane's beef is with that cupola module, but as you can see, we are now going to take off. So we've got our nuclear engine firing, and we can use our forward monopropellant engine just help nose up. Minmus's surface gravity is so low, and this craft has such good like SAS control that we don't need the forward monopropellant engine. We could just use, you know, the SAS wheels on board the SAS unit to pitch up. But I feel like the monopropellant engine just has that cool factor, doesn't it? And it feels a little bit more realistic, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, we're now, you know, truly airborne. Vacuum borne? I don't know. So we can close the forward service bay. We don't need that again. Shield the vulnerable monopropellant engine bell from the intense heat of Kerbin re-entry, which is going to be our next step once we've circularized in Minmus orbit and indeed perform our Minmus escape burn. So now we're just time warping up to our apoapsis, which is a nice, safe 31-ish kilometers above the surface. I generally go for like quite high Minmus apogee because, you know, Minmus has got this kind of a lot of high mountains. It's hard if you're doing too low of an orbit, you're at kind of a risk of slamming into the ground at high speed. So now we've circularized into a nice safe orbit. I'm just making a little maneuver note here to get ourselves on an encounter. Well, we're not going to get an encounter with Kerbin. Well, I guess technically we are, but specifically an encounter with Kerbin's atmosphere. So this plane is kind of vulnerable to heating because I don't know what part it is. It might be the SAS wheel, it might be the battery, I'm not sure, that's in the central fuselage. But either way, there was kind of a bit of a temperature gauge showing up with not that low of a periapsis. I think like I did a practice run with 50 kilometer periapsis and it almost exploded. So I decided once again to go for a 50 kilometer periapsis, and I'm like, maybe. In fact, looking at it now, I was looking at the Kerbal Engineer readouts and it says 31, but no, that was in Minmus. So yeah, 49.725 kilometer periapsis around Kerbin. So we're going to be going not too low in the atmosphere, but hopefully low enough that we're going to generate sufficient drag to lower our apoapsis around Kerbin. So yeah, that temperature gauge in the middle did get a bit heated, but luckily we didn't explode. And because we've not got an RTG on board this thing, I have to keep deploying the solar panels after each subsequent pass through Kerbin's atmosphere. Again, keeping the periapsis fairly low because I don't want to risk overheating. So I'm mostly flying this by looking at our apoapsis readings on the Kerbal Engineer readout to the left of the altitude gauge. You can also kind of see it on our orbital information panel thing on the bottom left. That's part of the stock interface. Modified, I'm using HUDReplacer with ZTheme, if anyone's wondering how to get this kind of dark theme to their KSP UI. And in fact, all the mods I'm using should be in the description as well. Scroll all the way to the bottom, there'll be a list of mods I'm using. But anyway, we are re-entering Kerbin's atmosphere for the final time. As you can see, I noticed that our path was naturally going to take us more or less over the Kerbal Space Center. We do have to do this kind of steering maneuver to kind of correct our course. We are indeed going to be passing over the Kerbal Space Center and not, you know, quite a bit south of it. And yeah, my hope was that we would be able to just glide there and not have to reignite the rapiers in air breathing mode, just because, I don't know, it feels a bit more cool. Feels a bit more like the space shuttle had to glide back without using its engines, because obviously it didn't have a fuel tank, didn't have the external fuel tank on re-entry. So yeah, but this time around I didn't quite make it. I think I had to use a little bit of rapier power right at the very end. I guess it's not, I mean, this maneuver I'm doing here is more unrealistic, right? Just burning straight into the full force of the re-entry heating, not doing like a belly up maneuver and using like the implied heat shield on the belly of this spacecraft, but yeah, whatever. And yeah, it's kind of hard to see because obviously with landing at night, I try and avoid landing at night whenever I can because I'm aware I'm making this for a video, right? It'd be nice if you could see what's going on, but you can kind of see the challenge of trying to navigate during the night. There was some debris at my space center, so I could sort of use the little graticule that highlights those debris pieces to kind of navigate my way there. But yeah, this mission is coming to an end. What also came to an end recently was January of 2026. We're already in February. Where did that month go? I feel like 2026 just started and we're now, you know, more than a 12th of the way through the year. It's crazy. Time is really flying by at a scary rate. As you know, as one gets older, they say that time just disappears like that, and I'm starting to feel that in my 30s now. Like, what happened to my 20s? Anyway, not to end the video on too depressing of a note there. As you can see now that we're below the cloud layer and we're nice and close to the KSC, we can see that lit up runway there. So you should now be able to see it basically. So we can deploy our landing gear and get ready to land. But yes, 2026, new year, new me, they say. I want to try and do more videos on my second channel. I used to do quite a lot, and then I sort of stopped uploading to my second channel, and now I've lost my partnership. Like, I'm no longer a YouTube partner with my second channel because I didn't upload enough. But I just kind of like uploading like low stakes videos. Like, I've got to be worried about like making sure they get enough views to appease the algorithm and all that. It's just nice just putting silly things up. So yeah, there'll be a link to my second channel in the description if you want to check that out. Also, don't forget to get your discount on Incogni. Use code MATTLOWNE for 60% off an annual plan. Click the link in the description. I genuinely do use Incogni. I think it's great. And they've supported my channel for so many years. They're really, really great guys. And of course, have to mention the beautiful names on the right-hand side of the screen. My Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members who make all of this content possible. Thank you so much if your name is in lights there. But yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and enjoyed viewing the incompetence and unpreparedness of Lowne Aerospace for once, not the rescuee. Yeah. Anyway, bye for now.